count.
Sorry.
We
Go ahead.
we had a count of over 1,200.
Yes. And we missed
Excellent.
people and we
The
weren't.
problem was, Dan, that one roll of tickets, we knew what the beginning number was and what the ending number was. The second roll of tickets, we only know what the ending number was because things were a little frantic and no one remembered to write down the beginning number, and it wasn't one.
Ah, okay. So, but 1,200 is a safe number at least.
That's the bottom,
And
at
we
least
can
that one.
And we can let Lisa arbitrate it because she may have a better idea.
Right.
Okay.
And while we're
Very
on that topic, and then we'll get to the meeting, I spoke with Julia, who was going to find, she had done a report a couple years ago.
Yes, she had.
And she didn't think we had cleared 1,000 on the before. Like this was definitely record breaking.
This was record breaking, but I think 2 years ago we did clear 1,000, but this is the 4th year, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to say because
No,
we
it is.
skipped
I
last year.
counted.
Okay, good.
Yeah, our highest was 700. So this year was the highest.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
Do you
what
know-
she
what
thought
was the
too.
number, Lisa? Do you know? I mean, what are you saying?
I thought, well, after they counted the tickets that were put in the buckets, I thought that came to just under 1,200. So that was recorded tickets. Well, those tickets plus, yeah. So that's where, but there was definitely people that were missed and there was people that came in the other entrance. So yeah, that's where it got a little dicey. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm safe to say that it was definitely over. I just say it was definitely over 1,000 people, which was kind of crazy.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Really
So,
unbelievable.
yeah, especially given the weather, because it really was not the most beautiful day.
Yeah, it wasn't even a beautiful day. All
Yeah,
right.
it wasn't the nicest day we've had.
So it's 3:05 and we have a quorum of the committee here. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order and move forward with our agenda. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 21st?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Oh, somebody who is there, Kristen? Okay.
You. Second.
I saw your hand. I saw your hand. That's great. All right.
I
All
was
in favor?
printing something, so I put it on mute.
That's okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Great. Thank
Oh,
you.
no, wait a minute. There's two comments there about the, there they are again.
There's two what?
Two noisy little dogs apparently that are saying, I don't approve.
No, that's me, Blaine, and I'm in the middle of a construction project, which is why I have my video muted. And that's one of the dogs here. I apologize.
There's no need to apologize now that we understand who's talking.
That's great. That's great. Well, so I want to get right on to the next item on the agenda because we have Blaine here. I've invited several business people in the community to speak today, and we'll see if they manage to come or not. But I wanted to talk about the current business climate here in Washington, and I invited Blaine, who's got his hand on the pulse of things happening in the depot. I also invited Daryl Wright, who said he would come. We'll see if he's able to, representing services and sort of the construction side of things. And Liz Five Jeans, who's also retail, just to kind of share some thoughts and reflection. Well, and obviously Fran and Lisa, because they are here as well. I wanted to just hear from the businesses about the summer and about struggles, the COVID situation. We hear about labor and supply chain issues, but we want to hear from you. And then any kind of thoughts that you have for the committee on things that we can do, or the town could do, the committee could do to help with whatever issues you're facing. So Blaine, Blaine, thank you so much for joining us. If you wanted to go ahead and get started and just share some reflections, that would be great.
The phrase I use often is I feel like time has bent in the last 2 years. I have a hard time figuring out whether something happened a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. It's been Groundhog Day for the last 24 months. We're doing okay. The demographic changed and it caught me off guard. We got differing opinions from the real estate community as to what was happening, but after 3 or 4 months, it didn't really matter. There was a new crowd here, and at that time they were full-time. So since then, I've kept my finger on the pulse, and a lot of the full-time have gone back to being weekend. We definitely have had a staffing struggle. We continue to have a staffing struggle, and there's been a couple of kinks in the supply chain, but we're doing the best that we can.
So is what you just said, you feel like some of the full-time people who became full-time have headed back? Blaine?
Yeah. Ramped up. I anticipated that a lot of people that moved here to be safe would probably go back to we've seen that a lot of part-timers the past 18 months have now become weekenders. That's staffing. Everybody's all hands on deck on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then Monday through Thursday. The crowd face is different. Right now we're in leaf season, so we've had a record couple of weeks. But the regular, we had accounts, and we see now that activity for those, at least 40% of them, is now back to weekends only.
Okay, so your Monday through Thursday has really dropped, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's dropped by about 40%.
Wow, that's a lot from the summer. From the summer, or actually the
From the previous 18 months. Yeah, I mean, we probably had a 50% surge in house accounts, and that activity was Monday through Sunday. And now it's condensed to Friday through Sunday. The level of business is still there. We just have to shift the staffing now.
Okay. Because
And Columbus Day weekend was always a peak, and Columbus Day this year was ho-hum, but this past weekend we hit a record. And there was no explanation other than day trippers, which I give this committee a lot, sorry for the dog, I give this committee a lot of credit for. Washington is sort of on the map now as a destination, whether you're traveling 2 hours or 45 minutes. And we definitely see that.
Right. This, well, that's good to know. That's good to know. Do the people who come exploring for the weekend, do they have questions for you? Are there things that we can do? Do you feel like more?
Gilmore Girls is still a hot topic.
The Gilmore Girls? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's still a hot topic. This past weekend and Columbus Day weekend, that was a hot topic. And I try and go online and search and see if there's events going on related to a fan fest.
Right.
And I don't see anything, so it's hard to prepare for it.
It's next weekend. It's next weekend in Kent. And if you were to put a sign in the door, something like Rory gets her coffee here, man, they will stop in. So just so you know, next weekend. And also Julia at Explore Washington was
This coming up weekend?
Yeah, it's this coming up weekend, the 20 something, second to the 3rd, 4th, 22nd, 24th, something like that. And there's Julia is going to try to really put
I had
some
an email exchange with her a few weeks ago.
with Julia. Your connection's not great, Blaine. Sorry. She
Is
is
it
gonna,
me or you?
I don't know. I hear everyone else okay. It's just like a weird delay. Maybe it'll clear up. But she's gonna put stuff on Instagram about the Gilmore Girls to remind people that about Washington, so that when they're in town for the fest in Kent, they find their way over here.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right. So labor, I see you still have your help wanted sign out. How has that been? Talk to me about finding people to work. How's that been going?
It's almost impossible. I don't know whether applicants are playing a game or not, but I've talked to contractors and I've talked to fellow retailers, and we're on Indeed, and we get a lot of interviews,
Okay.
but then they never show up. They never show up in person, or they don't show up for their trial shift. So I don't know if they're playing a game with the Department of Labor, whatever it is.
Right. Having to prove that they've applied for jobs. Yeah.
But it's been difficult. And we've converted, we've converted a lot of people to full-time,
Okay.
which has been really helpful. And then we lost 5 college students who were here during COVID, living with their parents because there was no reason to pay for room and board at school. All of their classes were online. And July and August of this year, 5 of them went back to school because classes were in person. So it's been a challenge.
Yeah. So just for comparison's sake, this last COVID period, this summer in particular, busier than pre-COVID summers?
When I do month to month pre-COVID, we're up about 45. To last year, current, we're down about 10%.
All right, let me make sure. So you're up 40% pre-COVID, but this year versus last year down 10. I understand. So those part-timers have gone back to the city some. Okay.
Right. So a lot of our business has gotten condensed to the weekends, and that breakfast, lunch business that we were getting Monday to Thursday when people were here working remotely, that business has disappeared. But we were prepared for it.
Okay.
Right.
I missed that last bit, Blaine.
I anticipated that would happen once schools in New York opened and the majority of people were vaccinated. We didn't spend money or budget to maintain 2020 numbers.
Okay, that was smart. That makes sense. Are there any other challenges that you're facing, or things that that are cumbersome?
No, I haven't.
Great.
No, I would say no. I'm incredibly grateful. I think Washington has been a real respite for a lot of people, whether they were looking to get out of New York or Boston, or whether they were looking to get out of town for the day. We've had very few struggles other than trying to keep up. I mean, I feel like it's been Groundhog Day for the last 2 years.
Right. Yeah, it has been a challenge. Does anyone?
It's not a complaint, it's just a reality.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The whole environment has changed. Does anyone on the committee have questions for Blaine? No? All right. I would love to also hear from Lisa and Fran if you
Grateful for all of your work.
Thank you, Blaine. And thank you for coming. We appreciate hearing your point of view. I know you're open, I think, the most hours of any business in Washington, because you're Monday through Sunday, right? And
Yeah, 7 days a week.
7 days a week, and you really see what's happening on the ground here. So I appreciate your point of view. And if you ever have thoughts on anything that you think we can be working on, please make sure you share those with us. This weird delay.
Most definitely. I'm grateful for all the work that you guys are doing.
Thank you. Lisa, Fran, do you guys want to share a little bit about some of the struggles you guys have? Lisa, go ahead.
Sure, yeah. I mean, we're having the same issues as Blaine. I mean, we're all retail, facing some of the same issues. Ours may be a little bit different in terms of the business side of it, just because of the supply chain and the issues with all of that have made I mean, the labor market is a struggle. It's a nightmare. We're operating at 30% less than our normal, which is so high. So we're still trying to find staff. Same issues as Blaine. Still trying to, same issues. People will call you. They'll show up for an interview, then they won't come back, or they'll just call to, get it written down on an unemployment application that they did apply. So yeah, that's kind of a nightmare. And that hasn't been getting better. It was during COVID when we needed people because the business had gotten so much better. Like Blaine said, there was people home from school, college kids were around. That solved the problem. So it didn't seem like it was a labor issue back then, but it probably would have been had those college kids not been around. We still probably wouldn't have been able to find people because, again, people weren't working back then. So this labor issue has been, you're talking over 1.5 years of an issue. So yeah, doing business right now in this climate is a struggle because it takes more effort to do what you normally would have done. More effort, more people, not because the business is better, not because you have more business, but because of what you have to go through in order to get, products on the shelves, or the COVID restrictions, or everything else. So that's a major issue.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, right. In terms of his business struggles, is what effort it takes in order to actually run your business.
It's taking just 50% more time to do the exact same job.
Exactly. Yeah. So that and the fact that we have no labor to do the work, makes it even worse, so that's a major problem. I agree with Blaine 100% on business flow when it comes to people in the store. Yes. We're probably up from, I take COVID a year out. So we're up from where we were the year before COVID. So that would be 2018. But again, the Monday through Thursday is still back to where it was, where the part-timers are all gone. They're back to weekends. So, again, the weekends are still are busier here in Washington as it always has been. So that business flow is back to the same demographic. I was really surprised. I think I don't know if this number came out of the census, but it just kind of shocked me. I'm just only sharing this. Maybe it's part to do with what I see in the business climate, but I was so surprised to hear that 18% of the homes in Washington have kids. Not surprised because I do see that, but I see that as such a major struggle in this town, especially for a market. That if we only have 18% of the homes have kids in this town, it's mind blowing to me. It really is. It's just crazy. So I don't know. I heard that the other day and I just thought, wow, that's just crazy. So yeah. Anyway, our struggles are, like I used to have a lot of high school kids. There's just not that many kids around. So that also becomes an issue. Less kids, less people working, harder to find. So that I'm pulling kids from. I used to pull kids from Chicago. I have mostly kids from New Milford. So it's just changed.
Do you have a good contact up at Chippewa, up at guidance or something, if for getting those high school students?
You know what, we used to. but
Yeah.
things have changed up there so much that the contact that we used to have isn't the same person anymore. So, because I was talking to John at GW about that, and he said
Yeah.
he had somebody that he was using, and we had the same person that's going back last summer, or well, this past summer, and that's not the same person. So yeah, so no, it's hard. Yeah, it's again trying to find who's gonna find that person. You know,
Yeah.
they don't reach
Yeah,
out to
they've
us. We have to try.
been
You know, like say
very
we have to go
little
to
help
them.
from
We have to,
Marty's.
right? Yeah, I have to agree with that, Blaine. Yeah, it's like it's
We
hard.
had one STEM student, and I guess it was the STEM program that put them under contract. And they weren't a stellar employee, which I guess is not a reflection on STEM. But when it was over, he was gone. He wasn't
Mhm.
interested in maintaining a part-time employment. He was doing it for the school credit. And when he got the credit, that was it. He was out the
That
door.
was it. Yep.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I also think the other thing is with Chapag was that before COVID, you could take a bus down to work in the depot. And
Mhm.
now with the busing issues and not being able to ride different buses and all that, kids don't have the opportunity to even come down to the depot. I mean, I know New Milford High School just restarted their run. They have they call it an after school run in high school, where they run kids like downtown New Milford from the high school so
Mhm.
that kids can work and whatnot. They just started that back up again. So I'm hoping that maybe Chapag will, go back to that. But again, there's no really contact at the school that would, we would be able to like kind of go to and say, hey, do you guys think that they could start riding the buses again so we could have kids work?
No. So
Because
I have contacts at the school, and so I will work on that. I'll work on the busing, and I'll get you in contact with the guidance department, because I know they've had staffing changes, but I know the people up there. So let me work on that and figure out who the right person is. We have a new principal, we have a new head of guidance.
yeah, that's the other thing. New principal, new head of guidance. Yeah, I did. Yeah. So that's again, all that changeover it doesn't flow back to us, which is hard. Like, I get it, but
Yeah, so
it's hard to find that.
work on that. I can work on that.
Okay.
Just to see if we can help get a couple of high school kids, or so at least they have the information, because I think those aren't the people doing the the interview and run thing for department,
No.
right? So they're
Nope.
local, and if they can get the
Mhm.
bus to come down after school, that would help. So I will
Definitely.
work on that. That's something I can definitely do.
Okay, cool. That's good.
Fran, do you have anything you want to add to that? Your slightly different business?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with much of what Blaine and Lisa have to say. I mean, obviously our staffing is smaller. We are open 7 days a week, but not the number of hours that Blaine is open. We just started opening 7 days a week again. We've been
I
closed
didn't realize
Mondays
that.
since June of 2020. Staffing is an issue. I mean, I am looking for a key employee, and the quality, well, there are a lot of people who could come in at 4 o'clock on Monday through Thursday, but that's not really helpful when you close at 5. And I've always had a problem finding people for weekends. Now I have a plethora of people for weekends, but nobody during the week. In terms of the supply chain, I mean, one of the things that we are doing is really, and it's a different business, but it probably applies to most of the gift bookstore type businesses that are in town. We are strongly encouraging people to shop early because of the supply chain. I mean, among the factors are printing presses being overwhelmed, the shortage of paper. In terms of the gift market, I mean, you read about the container ships that are sitting in Atlanta, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and the goods are on them. I mean, at the end of August, there were some of our shelves that I have never seen so empty as they were since I owned the store. And it wasn't because I hadn't ordered merchandise. It was because the merchandise was delayed in coming, and in many cases, I might have received 40% of what I had ordered.
Wow.
And that doesn't necessarily get back ordered. And then all kinds of things come in a rush of the same kind. We have lots of candles now, but they represent 6 months worth of orders that
Okay.
all arrived at about the same time. In terms of our business is okay. The numbers, well, obviously 2020 had a lot of weakness. Beginning in late August of 2020, things began to improve dramatically, and businesses continued to be pretty strong. We do, weekends, lights just went out here. Our weekends are the strongest part. And it is interesting, Blaine, what you said about Columbus Day weekend versus last weekend, because we had a much stronger Columbus Day weekend than we did last weekend. So it, who knows? I mean, it's just the vagaries of people.
The weather,
shopping and when
the
they do
whatever.
and where they're coming from and whatever.
Mhm.
Did it catch you off guard?
I mean, I expected Columbus Day weekend to be strong, but it was the best Columbus Day weekend.
But the following weekend,
That was this past weekend. I expected it to be a little bit stronger than it was. You see, we had a switch.
You guys had
in
opposite.
terms of which was our better weekend. I mean,
we
not
got
that-
fried. I mean, it completely caught me off guard.
I mean, it was a good one, but it just wasn't. But I would have to say that more in terms of Columbus Day weekend.
That's
Even
so
though I
interesting.
expected
Blaine.
Yeah.
Oh, Lisa, you're,
Blaine.
Lisa, we can't hear you.
Lisa's
Thing
probably
about-
talking about,
This past, it
Lisa,
was,
are you
it was
talking
parents
about the-
weekend at the Gunner. Can you hear me? Are you there?
yes, and
Okay,
you
got
closed
it.
early to have your refrigeration
Yes, can
service.
you hear me now? Okay,
Yeah, I can hear you now.
yeah, so we closed early and it was gonna be parents weekend.
Yes.
If you,
And I
yeah,
got
so
that
was,
word
yeah.
at like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning. Steve ran over to get some peppers. And he said, oh, the market's closing early to have refrigeration service. So I
Yep.
called in 2 more people. We could have stayed open until 8 o'clock that night. It was nonstop.
Yeah, that was,
And I
that
didn't
was the other thing.
realize, I was like, oh, okay, this gives me an idea of how much business is in Washington on a good Sunday.
On a Sunday, exactly. Yeah, that's true. The other,
Marie,
yeah,
Marie-
the other thing is, I don't know, Blaine, just before I lose you, if I forget that, Gunnery is now running shuttles down to the depot on Sundays. That's their new,
Yes,
they have a new director of
that.
residence life. Yeah, they have a new director of residence life. And at first the shuttles were gonna be like coming down at like 1 o'clock. And I was like, that's crazy because we close at 2 and you guys close, you know, we have closed early, but early enough that they should have a little more time. So they're gonna run those earlier. Just wanted to let you know that
That's awesome.
that's a new thing. So that'll be happening for the next few Sundays for the fall. So,
Okay.
okay, before I
That's-
forgot.
Do they run on Saturday as well or just Sunday?
No, just Sunday afternoons.
Okay, yeah, because then no sports and so the kids have time. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
exactly. No, it's good. It's a great thing. I'm glad that they're doing that.
I'm glad you brought up the parents' weekend though, because that's the kind of thing that would be really helpful for the businesses to know. You know, for us to get that on the calendar somehow, just, hey, FYI, so that you can staff appropriately or maybe plan to stay open an extra hour, you know, because they're
I
gonna be,
agree.
yeah.
We have 3 or 4 staff from the gunnery that are daily or weekly customers, and we mark our calendar at Marty's for anything unusual that's going on, just so that we can staff for it.
That's great.
Yeah, we try to anticipate it and pick things up. for
Yeah.
business.
But there is no, I don't think there's a calendar resource, is there?
You don't think what?
Yeah, that, no. A calendar resource for gunnery. No, they're not, they don't post all their stuff on our main calendar, which is the thing. And that was the thing with the shuttle, which is why I reached out to the gunnery right away. As soon as they started coming down, I said, this is one of those things that would be good for the businesses to know ahead of time. You know, that was my first contact to Seth Lowe at the gunnery was, you know, if you guys are going to run a shuttle, it's great. We're so happy to have you, but could we just be informed so that we can prepare? Because none of us were prepared at all. Like that one Sunday, that first Sunday that they started, they came at 1 o'clock. I mean, we could have been open till 4, like you said, same thing.
Wow.
So,
All right. Well, that's another
Yeah.
place where I can reach out. We could try to figure out a way to, that's not the kind of thing we necessarily want on the Explore event calendar per se, but it definitely would be good to share with the businesses. So let's think about that. That's a great point, a way to help the businesses be ready. And so that we're all on the same page there. Good to know. Thank you.
I agree.
Yeah. Does anyone else have questions for our businesses while they're here before they have to run?
Are we seeing Blaine or Lisa, or for that matter, are we seeing any evidence of price increases?
In supplies?
Okay, supply, which
Oh,
would
yeah.
translate into your pricing?
Yeah, outrageous price increases across the board too. It started slowly with COVID, but now it's literally every single item. Every item. I could use a staff
Every
person
category.
just for every category, like Blaine said. Yeah, I could have a staff member just do price changes full time, literally. That's
I had a
how
meeting with
quick
my-
they change.
I had a meeting with my accountant yesterday, and her advice was, we haven't had a price increase since pre-COVID. But she said, things eventually are going to level out, and it might be in 24 months. But this is the time now to increase your prices, because customers are hearing it on the news, so they'll understand it. If you wait and do it 8 or 9 months from now, they might think you're price gouging.
I think your point's well made, Blaine.
In addition to shipping charges too, there are also surcharges, which is sort of a nebulous term, but it is being described as a temporary thing. And it's hard to figure out exactly what it's based on, other than the fact that it's a number added to an invoice.
Great. Yeah. That's a great question, Dan, because we've all been kind of wondering, with the labor shortage, that you have to hire higher prices, the inflation of prices,
Right.
it seems inevitable. And obviously, if the cost of goods is costing more and the labor is costing more, the prices are going to have to eventually go up. So
Well,
that's
remember, we also have a minimum wage increase every year.
right. Yes, and there's a minimum wage increase in place.
Oh.
January 1, that goes in effect.
No, I think.
Can we just go back for a second, Blaine and Lisa, Fran?
Yep.
Do you guys have customer count data? For example, number of times that the doors open or close or that kind of thing?
Can you repeat that question?
I have customer transaction account. You can do I can do it by number of transactions.
Okay. And Blaine, the question was, do you have, I guess what I was trying to sort out was the difference between customers coming and then the average spend once they were there.
Our ticket prices are up maybe 15 to 20% pre-COVID, but our
Okay.
volume is up 45%.
And is that a function? So is that a function of more customers?
Correct. That's the way I'm interpreting it.
And,
Our average ticket still sits, between $14 and $17, depending on what day of the week it is.
okay.
It's just the volume of transactions.
Okay. And Lisa,
Mine's the
is that
same.
is that the
Yeah.
same with you?
Yeah, same. Yep.
Okay,
More,
Fran?
more tickets.
Fran?
Yeah. It's a combination of price increases because books have been steadily increasing. And I mean, in terms of book terminology, frontlist, backlist, I mean, new books are much more expensive than they were 5 years ago. And
Yeah.
if the book is printed, it's almost certain to have a price increase.
Okay. So the focus, I guess the question that I was trying to drive at, should the focus be trying to increase the number of customers, okay, or should it be the average ticket? Now it's going to be forced up based upon the price increases that you guys have talked about already. But I can tell you that the communications work that has been laid out by the Economic Development Committee has tended to focus on customer count rather than a focus on average ticket. And we've got to sort that out, okay, particularly if we're going to try to do anything in terms of either stabilizing the business or actually growing it. So that's something to think about, Michelle. I know a little bit about this stuff, so we can talk about it.
In the short term, though, I mean, the thing that probably would be most useful, and we do talk about shopping local, but I think the shop early, shop local messages being emphasized over the next few months would be critically important.
Yeah, we did talk about that last month a little bit with Julia, because Julia was here, and
Right.
we're gonna get our Shop Washington campaign going, but maybe we'll try to get it going earlier and have some messaging about shopping early while supplies last.
And the wallet.
Yeah,
And I think we should particularly work that aggressively as we step into Christmas.
right, absolutely.
Okay.
Which is,
And that's why I was very curious at the beginning of this conversation with what was the count at harvest. Okay, because we appear to be able to bring people to Washington, whether it's New Preston, Marbledale, the depot, whatever the situation is, okay? And whatever we're doing that does that well, we should do more of it.
I think
And
you
that's-
guys are doing an awesome job. And I mean, could I handle more customers? Maybe. The only insight that my accountant had was it might be the time for us to impose a packaging surcharge. Our packaging costs are off the charts compared to pre-COVID. We were 25 to 30% carry out, and now we're consistently 50 to 60% carry out. And a lot of the frustration is because we don't offer table service outside, customers who want to sit outside are ordering it to go. So our packaging costs are they're just off the charts. And then it ends up in our outside garbage, which is 3 feet away from the front door. We would have easily put it on a plate.
yeah, that's a challenge.
And I got to tell you where that is really also present is at the pantry.
Yeah, our landlord has increased our garbage pickup because the little barn out back where we keep our garbage, we can't keep up.
Yeah.
I think that somehow maybe, Blaine, that's a communication, internal, trying to get people to stop doing that.
We've accepted that as a challenge, and we're doing signage. We're in the process now of doing signage for the window. I don't have the staff to do outside table service, but you don't have to order to go and then turn around and sit outside and then create all that garbage.
Right. And it's an environmental issue as well. So I think people will understand and will be on board. They'll be on board. We just have to break that habit and change things. It was so hard because
I agree.
Everything was to go during COVID for a while, and we're slowly, shifting that habit. So that is interesting, though. I was wondering about all the restaurants with all the takeout and all the packaging is expensive, and it's become more expensive because a lot of it is paper, and there's this shortage right now. So yeah, that is definitely a challenge. Whether you surcharge for to go or for the packaging, you could just charge for it.
Yeah, the suggestion was made that we have a packaging surcharge, and that way customers who come in to dine, they're not burdened with that increase. We're not increasing the prices on our menu, but for carry out, there is a packaging fee. Everything that we use is compostable and recyclable. And there's a premium that we pay for that. Pre-COVID, it wasn't an enormous expense. But now that it's a significant amount of our business, it adds up.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
And it's going to increase again, just so, because they've already told us down the line that the supplies are going to go up again. So it's just getting, it's
Yes,
just going to
I've
keep
heard
going.
that.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I just want to jump in here. I see Liz was able to join us, and Liz, thank you so much. If people don't know Liz, she is 5 Janes here in the depot. And we've been just talking about the traffic, the labor issues, the supply issues. I didn't know if you wanted to jump in and if you had anything you wanted to add to that conversation, or trends that you've seen. You know, we saw the increase of people here. Blaine says they're starting to head back. Lisa's seeing that too. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, I think that they are starting to head back. But it's still been an really active fall, which has been great. And I think with the leaves changing late, we'll probably get more of that than we typically would. I see with my bags that I use, and you know, I'm not using anything special, but I order from like 3 large suppliers, and I can't get in just the regular bags that I use. So I could either switch colors and do a different color, which they keep saying, oh, it's coming, it's coming. So I haven't done that. But to have to go to Staples to buy bags is awful, you know, as I wait for them. So I see it on that end. Blaine, when you're saying, Blaine, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, yeah. When you're saying with your people that are doing the takeout, before you did a surcharge, can't you use that in your dialogue? Like to say, like, are you going to be sitting outside to eat? And if they say yes, then put it on a regular plate.
Yes, that's what we're doing now. Just so that customers understand.
Right.
We may not have table service outside, but that doesn't mean that we have to put it in a paper bag. We've got a dishwasher 7 days a week. It's like, we'll serve you.
Right.
But I agree with you. You should see my garage. It no longer fits a car. All I have is any packaging material that I can get my hands on. I put it in my garage.
Yes. Yeah.
I've gotten caught short too many times, and it's the simplest things.
Yeah.
So now when it comes available, I order it, and now my garage is a storage unit.
You're a hoarder.
And the only thing it does is it makes my life easier, because now the staff just emails me at the end of the day and tells me what they need. And I throw it in the truck and bring it into work the next day.
Right.
And I'm grateful. I mean, we used to be able to say that's a world problem, but since COVID, it's not. I'm grateful to have the burden.
Right.
Lisa, what does your garage look like?
It looks like a disaster. You have no idea. I agree. That's the other thing about cost of doing business. You have to order things so much far in advance now, because normally you'd probably let it go another week or two, you know, in order to kind of keep your margins. But now, just to get it in-house, you're ordering it way earlier than you normally would have. So the margin is so small.
Right. Yeah, it has skewed my monthly expenses.
Yes, definitely.
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way. Ordering things earlier than you need because you don't know when it'll come.
We'll get through it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because so if somebody's standing in here, and let's say they're looking at something, they'll say, oh, I'm going to think, I want this for my, for my sister, but I'll come back and get it. It sounds, if somebody said this to me in a store last year, I'd be like, okay, now stop being pushy. But
yes.
It's going to be gone.
Right. I get it.
Buy it someplace else, it's going to be gone, and we won't be able to get it back in. And
I had a conversation with Holly, who's opening the ladies' dress store next to Depot Dog.
Yep.
And she said 95% of her merchandise is sitting offshore on LA, not only has she never opened a store, her experiences in women's retail, she's never opened a store in 30 days, but she's never opened a store with less inventory than she is on November 1.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a challenge. That's a real
And
challenge.
Depot Dog has been pleasantly surprised. Electa has done a superb job. My hat's off to her. But she's like, I can no longer reorder week to week. I just have to take a wild guess and get the merchandise in the store.
Yeah.
And her business has been awesome.
Yeah, I know she did a really nice job with the open and really finding a niche market, you know, something that we didn't have. So that's great. She's
Oh,
done
my
really
dog is, my dog is very quiet right now because I gave him one of her chew bones. No, she's been a great resource. I love it.
Yeah, she's been a great addition to the depot. Agreed. All right. Well, thank you all so much for talking about just the challenges of doing business and keeping us informed on this ever-changing COVID roller coaster we're all on. It'll be interesting to see how much of what we're experiencing now is the new norm and how much will return back to pre-COVID. So
You are welcome, and thanks for all that you guys do. I have noticed. Dan, are you on the call?
I am.
Dan started, I know he's a genius, but he already knows that. But what was it, 5 or 6 years ago when you started looking at this whole effort?
Yeah.
And I've watched you from a
You're
distance because my professional career was a statistician.
Oh.
And I've been watching you, and I think the results of this committee have been amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you for saying it. And I think it's in very capable hands as we move on. So to Michelle, I defer.
Thank you, Dan. Well, I do think that the work of the Economic Development Committee really put us in a great position pre-COVID because we had so many things in place that we were able to pivot. We had that online marketing. We were able to promote ourselves because we already had been. We weren't starting from scratch. You know, all that work had already been done. The passport had been done. The website was there. So, so it really put Washington in a great position.
Yeah, defining the destination and then concentrating the effort, to me, has paid off beautifully. And I give you guys credit for that. And the only visible person, because he was in every morning for coffee, was Dan and his associate. Dan, what's the guy's name?
Who's that?
Your cohort.
Tony
Bedini.
Shadow.
Yeah. Lots of work.
The effort that you two put into it, I admired from a distance, and I see the payoff.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful of you to say that. So
right.
What's next on the chart here, on the agenda?
So the next thing we're going to talk about is the kiosk that we've been talking about for a while. Kristen and I have done a little bit of research. We met together, and I'm going to share my screen with you. Because we got some estimates together here. Let's see. Oh, good. So everybody should be able to see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we were talking about a kiosk, we knew that we wanted to be able to display information. Some that we put together, that we put forward. We talked about a map, talked about maybe having some brochures that we put together. And then we wanted to create a space for nonprofits to promote their events or you know, any kind of event. We weren't really originally looking at a 4-sided kiosk, but that's sort of where we landed, partially because of this whole supply thing that we're talking about. This company, Displays for Sale, wouldn't do any customization. So we were looking at this. So I'm going to just show you what our thoughts were. And then, Kristen was the one who spoke with displays for sale. So if she have questions about that, but this display right here is 4-sided. It's made of the recycled plastic lumber construction